Jeff can't see it. Normally the guests can see it because it's on their screen, but I'll read it here. So Mike asks, really at the core of his question is he's reached out to his state senators. In Nebraska, it appears that the legal age that child support cuts off is 19, which usually it's 19 or high school graduation in most states. But the core of it is he's reached out to his state senators and he has not been able to get in contact with. Being involved in that process, what tips would you give parents that are looking to help create that change in terms of reaching out to their local legislators?
One of the biggest things I've learned from a friend of mine is decisions get made by those who show up. You've got to show up. Go to your capital. It's one thing it's really tough to cold call your representatives. They've got so much going on and it's just a phone call. When you show up, they can't dodge. I mean, you're there in person. They can't, have someone say they're in a meeting and not take your phone call. So showing up is the biggest one. And actually the response you get is actually very, very, you're very well received there because your legislators realize, oh, you've made a trip to the Capitol. You may have driven a couple hours to get here. And do that, a few times. Start making a habit of they're more than willing to just sit down and chat with you. And after you go a couple times, they start recognizing, who you are. And then you start doing, and this is the key thing for getting legislation passed, is then you start developing relationships. That's what you need. And the other tip, for your, I want to say caller. I'm not going to call
viewers.
For your viewers.
Yes.
Another tip for your viewer that asked that question is, during the off session, you've got to get involved with their events. Go to their fundraisers, go to their activities, go to their pressers, because then they're going to be like, oh, wait a second, this is the guy I saw. I'm like, oh, now he's coming to my events, and then in doing that, you're also going to meet other people, and you're going to start to broaden your, just your base of you broaden your contacts. Yeah. You're going to meet that, representatives or legislators, buddy they got elected with or something. And you're going to start to, and next thing you know, you've probably got about 4 or 5 or a half dozen legislators that you can tap into. So those are my tips for how to get in touch with and be effective with your legislators.
Yeah. And then I'll kind of piggyback for those that watch every single week. Probably about 2 months ago, we had Brian Vandiver on, who's part of the group in Arkansas that got the phenomenal law passed. He'll be here I believe on Saturday. He's going to be coming up. But that was one of the points he harped on. It got to a point where the legislators knew who he was. He showed up at the state capitol in Little Rock, and he was walking office to office, and they knew why he was there. They knew who he was. They knew him by first name. Many of the staffers and different things knew who he was. So there was this relationship to where that phone call could eventually take place. Like, hey, we're going to take Brian's phone call. We'll hear him out because he's going to show up if we don't take this.
Well, exactly. And I kind of chuckle, but I've got to imagine on the other end when, they see us show up, these guys again, these guys are going to keep showing up. Yeah, we are going to keep showing up. So you're going to need to listen to us and talk with us. And we've built these relationships over 7 going on 8 years now. So it's real key to start that process. Yeah.
And the other piece too is, a story I've told before on here too is my, co-author my book that's going to be released this fall, Andy Tyler. He's going to be here with us in St. Louis here probably in a couple hours. But he tells a story of, he's from the state of Indiana where I was born and raised, and he just on a whim called his local representative, and they literally got to him the same exact day and had a 90-minute conversation. So every legislator is not the same. And I think people don't realize how accessible and how, we'll call them normal people, our state senators and our state representatives are. They're business people, they're lawyers, they're former police officers. I mean, these are normal people in the community. It's not someone who's been in the political machine typically for 30. You do have those at the state level, but in general, it's not someone who's so detached from their community that they're not able and willing to have conversations with the people, because they want to know what the pulse of the community is.
Especially if you're their constituent. They like to see you in the Capitol.
Yeah, that's definitely.